Hi everyone, welcome to week 6. This week we're embarking into functions. There are a few things I want to talk about here, so this video will be a little bit longer. First, we'll take a look at the overview page. You'll see that I've provided a lot of reading. Your assignment for this week will have you writing functions, and I think it should be pretty easy if you go through the readings carefully and do the exercises provided in the readings, especially in Python for Everybody. So again, you have a lab and a quiz. Also, you should maybe take a peek at the midterm assignments. I might adjust the writing part a little bit to make it shorter, but we'll talk about that. Okay, so now for the lecture at hand. This is about functions. A function is a set of instructions that are grouped together as a collective action and given a name. So let's say you want a function that finds all the factors of an input and returns those in a list. There are clever ways to do this, but the brute force way is to start checking at half of the number and work your way down, adding numbers to the list each time the original number is equally divisible. And so the code to do that looks a little bit like this. Now I might have a program that has to do this pretty regularly. Instead of writing these instructions out each time in my program, I'll write them once inside a function and give that function a name, and then use that function each time I want to find factors. So I'll do that here. A function has 4 parts. The definition, which is started by the keyword def, is followed by the name of a function, which follows similar conventions to the name of variables. And finally, the parameters are arguments, which I'll talk about in a second, but they go inside of the parentheses here, and then finally a colon at the end. The second, there's a block of the function. If your definition line is at the left margin, then everything that is part of the function block is indented at least one level. Once the indentation returns to the left margin, or the same level as the definition line, the function is over. So inside the block, you'll put all of your instructions that are part of the function, and that will be executed each time the function is called. So here it is here. The third part of the function is the input. The input is the arguments or parameters of the function that go between the parentheses on the definition line. These are variables that hold data that is passed into the function. You'll see that num is a parameter in my factor finder function. Parameters can either be required or optional. If they're required, you simply include the variable name. If they're optional, they will have a default value. If I wanted to set a default value to my num parameter, I would just add an equal sign followed by some default value. This is the value that is stored in the parameter variable if there is not a value passed when the function is called. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now I can take this and replace it or remove it. And now everywhere I saw the x, instead of an x, we're going to use num. Num is an arbitrary variable name. These two division signs are integer division, which basically means that instead of dividing to a float or a floating point number, the value is rounded down to the next whole number. So if num is 5, then the result of num integer division 2 is 2. Notice it normally 5 divided by 2 would be 2.5, but that 0.5 just gets cut off. So it ends up being 2. So then if num then we append I. So there you go there. Fourth, and the next part of our function is the output. The output is preceded by the return keyword. This is what the function returns to the Python interpreter once the function is executed. There might be several return lines in the function body or block, but once the interpreter arrives at a return statement, it skips the rest of the functions, or the rest of the function, or the rest of the block. So this function will work down, go through this for loop, look at this if condition, and then once the for loop is done, it will hit the return and return whatever is stored in factors. Factors should have some values in it. Let's finish our function our factor finder function. Okay, the last thing to know about functions is that do not get executed when they're defined. So these lines here, 3 through 10, don't actually do anything except tell Python to remember these instructions. Instead, they're stored in memory to be used later. We can call the function later. This is how we say execute a function. We call it by writing its name and giving it parameters that are appropriate. I'll do this a couple times in the driver section of this program to show you. Here you go. So that's about it for this week. Functions get a bit complicated, and you can do all the stuff we've learned so far inside function blocks, plus other things. But I hope that you enjoy. Functions make coding much better, and I'm going to just show you what happens when we run this program now. There you can see my lists of factors. So 27 has the factors 27, 9, 3, and 1. And then 32 has the factors of 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1. So there you have it.